Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us. Happy to have alongside today St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. Morning, Mr. Mayor.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
Good to see you. We're taping this show on, just 2 days before Thanksgiving. What do we have? Tuesday, November 26th, kind of a rainy day out there, but boy, hard to complain about rain. I mean, boy, Lake Champlain, I was down at Kilcare a couple days ago. You can just about, as you may well know, you can just about walk from Kilcare to Mosquito Island without getting your feet wet.
I have not been down there in a while, but my wife just told me the exact same thing yesterday.
Yeah, it's really poor. And just Bay Park, I mean, it's just some mud flats here. It's just really low.
I'm going to have to take a drive-by this weekend.
Yeah, and in fact, I went back on the sports show last week. I checked back the last 6 years, and I think 2020 was another low year. But aside from that, at this time of year, last 5 years or so, the lake's typically been about 1 to 3 feet higher. So, pretty low lake at this point.
Well, and this may change at some point here in the future, but it always rebounds, right?
Yeah, seems to.
You know, the spring comes around, depending, we might have the heavy snow, but the levels are back up.
Yeah.
It fluctuates a lot, but it always seems to rebound.
It does seem to. And the drought, we're not getting as much. Again, of course, we're getting some rain today. Had a little bit of rain the other day. I love weather forecasters, though. If I was, to me, this sloppy with news reporting, you know, I mean, you saw this weather with the D word getting more attention, you know, very dry conditions. Yeah. And just a couple of days ago, 1 to 2 inches. Seems like all the weather guys are buying into at least a drought, you know, alleviating rain up to 1 to 2 inches. Burlington, I think, got a third of an inch. Yeah. Didn't even seem like we got that much. At one point, Gary Sadowski on Channel 3 threw up Enosburg Falls, 0.01. You know, I mean, basically nothing. But do I hear any? And again, to the east, there was more rain. But again, do I hear anybody talking about, hey, you know, what happened to all the rain you guys were talking about for days? Nothing.
And same with the snow. The snow didn't materialize.
Boy, snow. It's still at a trace of snow. I saw a tiny bit of frozen precip a couple of weeks ago, but nothing. I'm glad higher elevations. I wish Killington well. The Killington Cup, of course, day after Thanksgiving through the weekend. That's a big time event. And I guess they got some natural snow, but I guess they've been obviously making all the snow they can. Right. I think they needed 4 feet on the ground, and I guess they pulled that off.
Oh, is that right? I saw where they got the okay from the FIS.
They got the official okay. But that's a big time event. I think they get, 10 to 20,000 people showing up in town for that. I think it's the biggest women's alpine event in the States in the whole season, maybe.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure.
Anyway, so glad to see some precipitation. Maybe go back on the election a bit. Haven't talked to you for a while, but now Republicans definitely made more noise than I thought. And John Rogers, I thought he had a chance, but I think we probably talked about that. I'm trying to think what chance I gave him. Maybe 1 in 5 to make a real race out of it. And geez, unless the legislature goes the other way, of course, it's up to the legislature now. Which typically, are you aware of that? A lot of people don't know that.
What's that?
Rogers did not get 50% of the vote.
Oh, right, yeah.
And the races for governor, lieutenant governor, and treasurer they throw in for some reason. You need it. It goes to the legislature if a candidate hasn't won a majority. And of course, he didn't.
I met John. I like him, but I didn't think he had a chance. I thought the name recognition of Zuckerman, and I mean, you look at his resume. Yeah. And then also being from Chittenden County, I didn't think he beat Zuckerman. I was totally surprised by it. Right.
I was surprised, but I thought he had a chance, and just the affordability issue. And again, we talked off air, Governor Scott for how in another huge re-election victory, no surprise, but really seemingly for the first time, the governor expended a lot of energy on other candidates, including Rogers. That obviously helped.
And he paid for those, right? Those came out of his.
Is that right? Those are out of.
I think they came out of his
I'm sure
campaign.
Scott had a few bucks to deal with.
But as you and I said, he might be kicking himself that maybe he didn't do the same thing 2 years or 4 years ago. Because I think. You know, to your point, as popular as he is, he definitely made a difference. Yeah. And the stage was set. I mean, people were fed up with the taxes and the increases and all that. So maybe all the
there are definitely issues out there
for sure. So
interesting. And of course, now Franklin County, Trust the Vermont Republican Party is has, good thoughts about Franklin County all the time. Mike McCarthy, of course, your former city councilor there, had been the one Democrat, and I certainly thought that'd be competitive. I thought Joe Luno had a chance even 2 years ago when Mike won pretty easily, but yeah, I think Mike just got beat up part of the Democratic supermajority and stuff and went down.
Yeah, no, I think, if you looked at the sign race, Joe definitely had the sign numbers for sure, but that you can never tell by that. But I thought it'd be close. I was surprised by the margin of victory that Joe had for sure. So we'll to what we talked about before we got on the air, Richard, is now the Republicans need to have some impact on this. That's what people are expecting. So the pressure's on in some ways. I did talk to a few of the delegation, Franklin County delegation, and they're upbeat, and we joked that they have a little bit of a spring in their step.
Yeah, for sure.
And
but now the onus is definitely on them. Easy for them when they're in the super minority.
It's easy to point fingers.
The demos are screwing up everything, and they don't even talk to us. So now we'll see what they can come up with.
Easy to point fingers until it's back
of course,
on
I guess you could say the national situation somewhat similar. Mr. Trump and the Republicans, they got everything. House, Senate, and presidency, so we'll see. The onus is on those guys. We'll see what they can pull off.
I think, I think the message on the federal side and on state side is that people want to change for sure. I had to laugh at Speaker Kowinski's comments after the election. Is that she said, "Vermonters, don't worry, we have your backs." Well. You're in this situation because you didn't listen. I mean, it's almost like they still didn't hear the message, in my opinion, that it sounds like she's still going to go down the same road as what they did with the clean energy standard and education tax and all that. I just thought it was odd. That was the statement that she made, But Ruth, on the other point,
he sounded a little more conciliatory. He was quick to say, we'll see what the governor can come up with. But he sounded a little more conciliatory.
Yeah. So.
Interesting times.
We were out of town, and I really enjoyed that that night of TV, both locally and nationally, to see see where the House races are at nationally and the Senate, and see who comes forth. Well, I never really saw that. What was the final count on the federal House?
I think Republicans are up by about 5 seats. I think there still might even be a few, maybe California seats that they're still dealing. I think there are a few recounts out there. I think Republicans have about a 5-seat edge.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I saw when they were at 218, but with a number still outstanding results.
Yeah.
So
it might be up like 223. It's still House is still very close. And Senate, of course, 53, 40, 47. Yeah, I figured it looked like they would definitely grab the Senate with West Virginia. Obviously, with Manchin gone, they definitely had West Virginia. And just Tester in Montana, who I think is a decent guy, kind of a moderate senator, but good luck. With Trump so popular there, good luck winning an election there. So, interesting times. Anyway, so back to St. Albans. I guess, public safety certainly has been a huge issue. I saw you just went by my house a week or two ago, feeling better about the public safety issue in St. Albans. Tim, maybe with winter coming, that helps, but what's the latest on that? A lot of concern.
I think we feel good, but with bated breath. I mean, who knows what warm weather will bring? Not that we're a ways from that, obviously. But the change in weather definitely has impacted positively, I would say.
Meaning people who are in encampments have done something else.
That's what a couple individuals that I spoke to have found apartments to go in and they're couch surfing. Yeah. So they're out of the elements. And many of them, the few that I spoke to you would see them regularly around town. Yeah. Police have stated that calls are way down. Martha's Kitchen, I understand that the number of meals served are way down. Really? I don't think it's a situation where people have moved on out of the area. Yeah. I think it's more that they have called on friends, relatives to find a place to be during the winter.
Yeah.
And
What about shoplifting? Sounds like it was just so out of control.
yeah, no, I don't hear as much about it.
Yeah.
I know that Ace Hardware has had substantial losses, and
Boy, sounds like Ace has just taken a
yeah.
beating.
But there's been conversations with state's attorney, and he is more than willing to bring those
Yeah.
charges forward.
And I guess the legislature helped at least a bit on the shoplifting front.
Yeah. So I haven't fleshed out all of the new legislation, but I think a lot of them will be beneficial, and the key to it is, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Burlington police officers.
Boy, the Burlington boy, John Murad, of course, big news, saying he wouldn't seek reappointment. I'm not sure there was any guarantee he could have gotten it if he had wanted it.
Right,
But
right.
that he hung around this long blows my mind. I give the
Yeah,
guy
no, it's amazing.
a ton of credit.
The patience
Incredible
of
to
the
me
man,
he
yeah.
stayed this long.
No, I totally agree. The patience of the man,
Wow.
the disrespect that he faced.
Yeah. And again, nobody's perfect. He had, wasn't perfect, but boy, it sure sounds like
Yeah, no.
an incredibly tough situation. He did a very solid job.
I mean, you had the city council in Burlington. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a close vote, I think, when he got appointed as chief, and
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah,
just
it took Miro a long time to get him.
Yeah.
Finally got a.
and he his force, his police force, stand by him and have
Right.
said nothing but good things about him.
Yeah.
And you could almost see the writing on the wall. I mean, with this new
Yeah.
public involvement piece with the police, it's
Right. I guess voters, 62% approval for the civilian oversight of the. And again, not to say there shouldn't be anything like that, but the chief said, "Hey, we have internal stuff, believe me, that covers most of that, and the timing." Kurt Wright on VMT, who I listen to every morning, his big thing was, "Hey, I talked to so many people who they were paying attention to the election. They had no clue about that. That should have been an issue on town meeting day
Right.
when it's
I
local."
heard that, yeah.
He just made that point every day
Yeah.
for a while.
yeah. So he, Burlington, they've had many chances. They had, I saw Joan Shannon talking about the ordinances the other night on TV.
Well, I would have bet half of my life who would have been the next mayor. Shows you what I know.
You and I would have been on in an apartment someplace.
Yeah.
We had to sell our house.
Yeah.
But I like Joan Shannon. Like the other night, they were discussing an ordinance that was you can't urinate and defecate in public.
And did that
And so they got pushed back. I think it finally
Really?
passed, but they got pushed back on it.
really?
And it was funny, the clip they showed on the news was
Wow.
Joan Shannon saying, "It is not okay to urinate in public. It is not okay." And she repeated it like 2 or 3
Really?
times.
Wow.
And people pushed
Jeez.
back. And
That's
so
unreal.
for me, Burlington's their own worst enemy, I
Yeah.
think. That's, they had a chance to get rid of the state's attorney 2 years ago, and they didn't.
Yeah.
They had, I like Joan Shannon a lot. I don't know
No,
her
Joan
personally,
seemed
but-
very
but
solid.
I think they missed that opportunity as well.
When you have mayoral meetings once in a while, have you met personally?
I met
Anna Mulvaney Stanek?
I met Mayor at an event. It was a Spectrum
Yeah.
event. It was their soup bowl event.
Oh, yeah.
We talked only briefly, but we do have a mayor's coalition, which is not real strong. I think mainly because there's such a diversity of beliefs on how
Boy,
things.
I bet.
Yeah, so we have a hard time coming to in unison over certain policies.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of Spectrum in the news recently, I guess you're looking to do, hoping to do a 10-bed
Yeah.
homeless facility in the old, Red Top Restaurant
right,
building.
exactly. Yep.
Is that good news to you? How do you react to that?
It doesn't bother me. I mean,
Yeah.
that's probably not the best answer, but Spectrum's been a good citizen.
Yeah.
I mean, police are never called there. I mean, they do great work, good service,
Yeah.
and they have a lot of great success stories of individuals who that don't have good family support.
Yeah,
They might be living in an old truck or a tent, and I think Spectrum, the director, Mark Redmond, really, he and I think, are on the same page, and he really, they really have some good programs in place to help these, the youth.
yeah,
And my expectation is there will be no issues at that place, unlike a low bar shelter or
Yeah.
something like that. But I think they do a great job of working with their clientele, if you will, and so that doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, it's better than what's there. I mean, I'm not sure what is there. I think it's
boy, I've
very
got no clue.
dilapidated, but
I've got no clue
yeah.
what's there.
But Spectrum has done a nice job keeping up their existing building.
And that's right, very close, just
right.
almost next door.
And they have, so, we just have not, as a city, have not had any issues with Spectrum
Yeah.
at all. And I don't mean that as an organization,
Sure.
I'm just saying, on a per-day basis, we don't have any issues.
And Tim's Place, has that been a pretty solid organization?
Yeah,
would you
Tim,
say?
I met with Ben Kaufman, we're supposed to probably meet again here soon.
Yeah,
I think Ben has done a nice job of, and Mark Redmond's the same. I think they feel that their clientele needs to be respectful and, that they have expectations that they need to meet.
yeah,
I talked to Ben last, I think the state would prefer that Tim's House is, people come and go without any scrutiny.
yeah.
But
Is that right?
Ben was just telling me that they evicted someone from Tim's house
Really?
because they missed curfew 4 nights in 1 week.
Wow,
And the curfew is reasonable. It's 10 o'clock at night.
wow. Sounds very reasonable.
and-
Good for them.
And this one individual failed to meet that expectation, and so they evicted him. So,
Interesting.
and I think there needs to be more. I think there needs to be more accountability. There needs to be
Yeah.
more. If you're going to get services, the expectation is you're going to adhere to what the rules are. And same with Martha's Kitchen. I know
Yeah,
Bob, brother Bob down there, has had some issues and has trespassed individuals where they can't
Yeah.
come in. I think they still give them a lunch out the side window, but they can't come into the building until they learn how to behave. So, personally, I think some people will push back on this, but I think all those programs, there has to be some expectations.
Yeah.
We pushed back on the free needles.
Yeah.
Vermont Cares handing out free needles.
is that still, I know were you hoping those folks would not deal with St. Albans anymore, or?
Well, yeah, that was my hope, but it was probably
Not gonna
unreasonable
happen.
for sure. But
Yeah.
they have been in town, and I don't think they're not in highly traveled areas. So,
Yeah.
but my thing is, and I was naive. I thought if you need a needle, they'd give you a needle.
Yeah,
But what I've been told and learned from Burlington is that they give out bags of needles at any one time. So you could get
bags of needles?
you could get 25, 50 needles,
Wow.
as opposed to here's an old one and here's a new one. That was sort of where my mindset was at, but it proved not to be the case. So, so we did push back on that. We don't have. There's no ordinance in place that would prevent them from doing it, but we have discussed the possibilities of doing that.
Yeah. Housing, of course, a huge issue. Boy, the Lake Street project, that's pretty close to being finished.
Lake Street, and I think the senior cathedral.
And Cathedral Square, of course.
On Lower Newton looks great. I love the design.
Boy,
I think,
they've made pretty quick
yeah,
progress on that, it seems.
They moved along well. I think they're pretty much enclosed with at least plastic, so they'll be able to work throughout the winter.
And
But
Lake Street, isn't that just about finished?
Yeah,
or-
Lake Street's, I think they're looking at start filling apartments here in December.
Really?
So both of them. But I think the design on Cathedral Square is beautiful.
Yeah.
I think it's not like it's a white elephant in the neighborhood. I think it fits.
Yeah.
So,
In the city, you folks are talking about some significant housing around City Hall, maybe the Bellevue building. Is that
Yeah, we've-
sounded like not
that's
the
what-
easiest thing to pull off, maybe?
That one, I wouldn't say it's taken a backseat, but it doesn't have the focus. The one that has the focus now is the other apartment building down at Fonda,
Okay.
which will be workforce housing. That would be primarily for individuals who are making at least 44,000.
Okay, so it's separate from Cathedral Square.
Yeah, totally different. So there,
How many units with them?
87, 82 to 87. They're still dealing, the city manager is still
Wow.
dealing with 3 developers and trying to pick who they're going to go with.
Wow. But that sounds pretty solid at this point?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, that's a lot of units.
And the tricky thing is, so we're giving land, right?
Yeah.
And we got some of the treasurer's money, low income or low interest treasurer dollars, I think in the amount of $9.8 or $10.8 million to invest in it. And even then, the developers are saying it's tough to make the numbers work
Really?
based on construction costs and material costs and everything else. But we do have 3 interested parties, and they're city manager's working through it with David Burke from Burke and White, who has assisted the city on a number of different projects and on the TIF district. So we're optimistic there'll be something moving forward here in 2025.
Well, it certainly seems like the city has done at least its share on the housing front, it would seem to me.
That's our conversation. Do we get, there's a lot of things being proposed.
Yeah.
And we actually had Catherine Dimitrick at our last city council
I
meeting.
interviewed Catherine. Hadn't dealt with Catherine in years. It was great. I had a good interview with her a month or 2 ago.
Yeah, so she presented on some of the new 181, Act 181, I think.
With Northwest Regional Planning Commission.
Yeah, she has the director
Yeah.
and been there, she said, almost 30 years now.
Yeah,
So,
Catherine's been there a long time.
yeah, so our question was, and she didn't have an answer, which I understand, but, will the city get credit for what we've done? I mean, they're still implementing a lot of things on the state level.
Yeah.
And, if you look anywhere in the county, there's no one has a new development like we do.
Right. Highgate, of course, is hoping for their Cathedral Square in Highgate, but that's about it. I'm not thinking of much else, I guess.
I mean, you do have single family or duplexes
Right.
going up, but
Nothing, no significant projects.
no. So somehow I'd got to believe that we would get credit for what we've, the
Yeah.
route we've gone.
Yeah.
The other piece of this, we just cleaned up the final piece of the property across from the Brickyard gas station, where the old brown junkyard used to be.
Yeah.
We just finalized the brownfield cleanup there. So people may wonder, why is it paved? So there was dirt removed, and then what happens in a brownfield scenario, you don't remove all the dirt, but you can cap it so that the emissions or whatever the situation is so that's why it's paved. It's not, we don't have we were working with DFA at one point, but that's not the case anymore.
Makes me think of the old the railroad building, old railroad building. Anything going on with that?
Not that I know of. It's been pitched a few times, but nothing. No significant conversations by any means.
I guess I'd be remiss. Passport agency, any newer?
Yeah, nothing new. I mean, I just got off
new.
the phone with someone from Congresswoman Balance office, and they're meeting, or they did meet with GSA on that, and it's.
Just continue to be not at all optimistic about St. Albans holding on to that.
I think they're just stringing us along.
All right.
And they'll make their decision.
Interesting.
But
St. Albans in the news. I saw a TV story on it last night. I guess a proposed ordinance dealing with city landlords. And again, just in an effort to cut down on some of the problems out there with.
Right. It seems to be generating some conversation, which is fine. My feeling is, in a nutshell, the ordinance is if you have tenants that are causing issues on a regular basis, the police are being called on a regular basis. There's a number of impacts to the neighbors around those units, if you will, that the landlord will be called on the carpet, if you will, to address this situation, which means
Interesting.
eviction or address it so that those nuisances, whatever they were, are gone, are taken care of and removed. And I say removed, but the situation itself would be corrected. And if you're a good landlord and you got good tenants, this won't even impact you. You won't even know it's there.
Right.
There's no cost to it unless you are called on the carpet to address situations.
Has anybody else, any other towns or cities done stuff like that?
Not probably not so much in Vermont, but Councilman Hawkins had found some ordinances in other communities
Right.
in and around Florida where he spent some time.
Interesting.
And we've had it reviewed by legal team. But basically, one apartment house can ruin a neighborhood, and I speak from experience. I live, as you know, next to a 4-unit.
Wow.
The landlord works hard and does a nice job. It hasn't been, although there's probably some suspicion that there's some drug activity going on now, but there hasn't been, it's not, you don't hear, there aren't fights, there's not, bad language, there's, he tries to keep it fairly neat. So, I mean, it's been better than it has. I don't think that apartment would even fall under the category of the nuisance, with the exception if, the drug activity grows and the police are there on a regular basis, then he'll have to act to it.
Yeah.
But we're hoping that, we can get rid of some of the bad, and there's every ward has, there's a house or two on Bishop Street. You got our house on Rubley. You've got you got a couple down on Elm Street. You've got every ward has certain apartment houses that are an issue, and that we felt that this was needed to get the message across to landlords that we're just not going to stand by and have police go there, 20 times in a year and not address it.
Yeah.
So I like it. We did the first reading. We had one landlord show up. He did not have a problem with it.
Yeah.
The people that we will hear from are the ones that are bad landlords that rent to anyone just to get the money.
Yeah.
And with no scrutiny of what their history might be or what their resume, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be one of the better. This goes sort of hand in hand with the public health and safety ordinance, and that has proven to be a good piece of legislation as well, or ordinance. So.
Boy, hopefully a little progress on a very tough, complicated issue there.
I mean, you got I don't know how the one is behind you, but
I've had in the past been some issues. I can recall a gunshot. In fact, a gunshot that was many years ago, but that got my attention.
And I remember there was a knife wielding individual, if I remember right, probably 6-7 years ago.
But you're right. No, every ward's got a problem with that. The Old Foundry Restaurant, one federal. Any potential? Nothing close that you're aware of. I see a food truck is in there once in a while.
Yeah, they came before us 2 months ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, nothing more on one Fed, but
what about the restaurant that was coming in across from City Hall? Is that?
we had that discussion. They're struggling getting contractors.
Really?
The contractor piece
huh?
is we're dealing with it in our building with trying to find an electrician.
Wow.
So.
Down to half a minute. Quick word, maybe festival. We got Christmas not too far away.
A lot of activities coming up. Lighting of the trees is Saturday night.
Wow.
And then they're doing a casino night as part of Festival of the Trees. I think that's December 6th at City Hall. There's just a lot of activities. Someone commented to me yesterday that it's a great place to bring up a family and the winter activities and the truck parade's coming up. I haven't seen the date on that, but or the tractor parade.
I think December 13th for the tractor parade.
So a lot of activities and it'll be fun. Just need a little snow.
Sounds good. Thanks to St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. Thanks for watching us here on Northwest Access TV. Thanks especially to my producer, Ellen Cunningham. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. See you next time. See ya.